Alright everybody, welcome back. This is going to be another early video on in my milling journey, and I had to procure a few more tools in order to really get started with learning how to use this milling machine. If you're in the same situation, you're going to find that you're going to, just like with the lathe, you're going to have to buy tooling to get started, to really work on projects and learn and understand. You got to have the right tooling. A vise, you got to have a vise. I use this drill press vise just to do some initial test cuts, but ultimately I want to mount a proper vise. Now I say this is proper, but this is an El Cheapo vise, but again, I'm trying to keep my initial spins down to just get started and learn. If I find that this thing is not adequate, I will replace it. But we're going to do an unboxing of it. I got it from the usual places. There's your standard handle that these things come with. Really, I'm just looking and hoping that it's just level and workable. Comes with some T-nuts and bolts, T-bolts, so we can mount it to the lathe. And it's, packed like you would expect. Get it out of here. And there we go. Oh, this is a 4-inch vise. It's filthy. And like I said, it's about what you'd expect. Turn it around here. And there we go. So I'd call that a lot more of a proper milling vise, at least to get started with, than this 4-inch drill press vise that I had. So I wanted to get that replaced. Again, I went with a cheaper unit just so I could get started. But I just wanted to be able to get started. I chose a model that did not have that swivel base. A lot of people say just don't even bother with those. Those aren't any good. Seems to be okay. Again, it's got a marking there for some reason. Blemish marking, I don't know. Turn it this way. There's a number, looks like a number 7 on it, whatever that means. Maybe you all know what that means. The rest is, oh, the other thing I looked for was they have these little channels here on the sides. And what that's for is if you're going to ever do flood coolant, it'll channel down that liquid, the coolant, and then run it into your table rather than just run it everywhere. So there it is. Let's just test a little quick if it, how it separates and stuff. Does need some more cleaning up, but anyway, this will be a good size. I'm glad I didn't go with 5-inch. I just don't think that would have been necessary. I need to really clean this thing up, run it in and out, make sure it's ready to go. But definitely, there's no play like there was in this other drill press vise. Again, no comparison. They're not the same tool. And there we go. So some of my initial projects are going to be making some new jaws for this thing that are not steel but aluminum, just something softer. I just got some ideas to work with that. So there we go. We'll mess with that a little bit later. Let's get that out of the way. And I'll show you what else I got that I think is important. We got, I got a fly cutter. Another, an affordable unit. But I was wanting to face off some larger material, and using the end mills that I have, they're very small on their footprint. So I thought, well, I need either a fly cutter or a shell mill or a face mill, and I wasn't really sure as far as getting what else is in there, as far as getting like a shell mill or something with inserts. I didn't want to commit to any certain style of inserts or anything like that until till I got to using the machine and decided really what direction I wanted to go. But I did think a fly cutter would be a good idea to have, just long term. And so I went with a 2.5 inch fly cutter. It's got the R8 spindle attached. Got dirty grease, just like everything else. But that's good because it's not going to rust. And it came with some high-speed steel. I also have some 3 or 4 inch high-speed steel blanks as well. But there we go. So it's not sharpened. It's not ready to go. I'll have to figure that out for the angle on how to cut that. But regardless, there we go. This is the, let's get it out of there. Just dirty. Dirty, dirty. Almost wet. Like there's moisture in it. I think there's moisture in that. I'm glad I'm getting it out of there. So it wasn't just oil. There's somehow some water got in that thing. Bag was wherever it was stored. Yeah, we'll get that cleaned up. Get that out of there. All right. So I think this will be good to get started. All right. Well, anyway, we got this out of here. Definitely, if this thing sat in a warehouse too much longer, I think it would have rusted. Had oil in there, but the oil got mixed up with water. Somehow, moisture got in that bag. Anyway, there's the R8, and I've got my high-speed steel. We'll figure that stuff out together. Let me set that here. And finally, something I quickly found I'm going to need and have already needed is some parallels. Let's get this opened up. You really need these in order to set the height when you're working with your vise, the height of the material you're working with. Otherwise, you got to shim up your material. A lot of your work pieces aren't going to be the height of the jaws on your vise. So I didn't spend, again, I can't buy all the fancy expensive stuff right away day one, but this is what I got. So we have a set of 1/8 inch parallels, and they're of varying heights. You can see there's some shorter ones that are 1/2 inch all the way up to 1 5/8 inches, which is taller than the vise. Let's open these up, show you. And we got the oily wax paper stored. And these are supposed to be matched pairs. I did some reviews online, and people say, you know what, these are just fine to get started with. But there's our matched set of parallels, 1 5/8 inches. Seem to be decent quality. I think they're going to do just fine for my needs. And yeah, and they're all labeled here, 1 5/8 inches by 6 inches wide. So I'm happy that I got those as well. If you can imagine, if you were watching the last video on the mill, you would have saw that I had to shim up and shore up the material using a scrap piece of aluminum. Wasn't going for precision at that time, but at any rate, now we've got some things that we can actually start working on. The next thing I want to do is mount up the vise and do some tram checking on that vise as well. Make sure it is parallel to the cutting spindle, and we'll go from there. The first thing we're going to do is bring this vise over here. I want to go ahead and clean it up. I cleaned the surface really good. I even cleaned in my T-slots again. There's still some residual oil in there. I'm trying to get all that cosmoline out of there, but it's it'll work its way out eventually through use, but yeah, it's just down in those corners, but it's almost all out of there. I also got this cleaned, free of any burrs and anything else that I can detect. I want to clean the bottom of the vise. Bringing you over here instead. But what I'm doing, I don't think there's any burrs on it, but why at this point, let's go ahead and just run a stone over it and make sure there aren't any high spots. There's one on the corner. Overall, maybe a few there. Just a few high spots you can see, not too bad. We're going to be okay now. Let's get that cleaned off. Grab a clean towel. And bring this over. There we go. I think I'm going to go ahead and mount it like that. I have to move you back. Right there in the center. That gives me my travel that I can go back and forth. I don't think I want to mount it back farther. So I think that's where it's going to go. And now we need to work on the process of tramming everything in, getting this bolted down. I'm going to use the T-nuts that came with it. Pretty simple. Just a couple T-nuts, T-bolts, excuse me, and then some nuts to go with it. No lock washers or anything. Not sure I need that. These aren't tight yet. I want to be able to knock this thing around and as I tram it in. But like I said, I wanted to get this on here first before I started trying to tram this thing in and really getting the mill set up the way that I want. I have it pretty much centered. Actually, it's a little bit to the left. Let's bring that over. I don't know if it's right to, if you want to put these dead on center or you want to put them offset. All right, I think before I get started with tramming this in, I'm going to move it off center. That'll give me more working space for different projects on the right side. So I'm going to move it. I was looking online, a lot of people divide their table into thirds and run it, you know, a third off of center. The other reason is, you know, my oiler's down here, and I know I can move my table one way or the other, but I think for normal operation, I'm going to move this thing over to the 7-inch mark, and that almost splits the difference, and it'll give me more working area on the table. I think the next thing we should do is take off my end mill. we go. That's tight. See what's going on here. We don't want to drop our end mill, so let's take that out, set it aside. And now I need to see if my indicator, let me grab my indicator. This is, it reads in the half thou. Every short line is a half thou, every long line is a thou. Let's put this on here. And then we'll mount this. I'm tramming this across the fixed jaw. Loosen this up. And I can already tell it's off. You're not going to be able to see it from that angle, but I will record that and put a clip in here of the actual reading. I've got the setup here to where I have it set on 0. It's touching the fixed jaw, and we're going to sweep this back and forth and see and tram in this mill. I know that this mill is going to be way off right now. I can just visually see that it's off. But what we're going to do is tram it in. You'll see me doing that on the other camera, and then I'll bring you back in when we have this trammed in, and we'll verify. So this side is out, so I need to bump it your way. Oh, wrong. Sure doesn't take much. I don't have it tightened down very much. I don't have it tightened down at all. Let's give it a little bit of snugness before we get started. All right, now we're at 0. That's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 thou. Can we? I'm going to fiddle with this off camera. Okay, I've got it pretty close. If you watch any videos on the internet, Blondie Hacks has a really good series on mill skills, and she's got a really easy way to tram these in. I don't have a power feed, so it's not quite as easy, but there is a trick where you can use parallels that stick out past these bolts. Go watch her video. She knows a lot more about this than I do, but basically when you're trying to tap it in, you've got these two bolts and the whole thing is turning on an arc and not just pivoting on one spot. That's why people get frustrated trying to tram these in. But I think I have this within a thou, maybe 2. What we're going to do is run this back and forth and double check. I know you can't see it from there, but we're on the 0. We run it all the way across. And we are not even, we're maybe 2/10 off. Maybe. I think we're maybe 2/10 off, if that. We're going to go ahead and run this back across. This is over a 4-inch 4-inch sweep. Let's run this across. And I think I'm going to call that, if it's only 2/10 on the way back here, I'm just going to call that good enough rather than fiddling around with just the littlest of increments. And there is the other end. And I don't know, you tell me, it's not 5/10, 2.5 It's not much. We're gonna go ahead and call that good enough. I don't know if I can knock that out of there or not. Probably end up ruining it if I do, but yeah. Yeah, probably should have left it alone. I think I got it this time. It's really close. I'm on the 0. Here we go. Bring it back across. There's the end. I'd say that's pretty darn close. Let's go back across. So we're still on the 0. We're going to take it back across the face. And there's some deflection in the jaw face. A little bit, but not much. And there's the other end. And we are still at 0. That's good enough. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. I'm going to tighten those down. I'm going to call that vise trammed in. I've got plenty of material, workspace over here to mount some different materials with some clamping blocks and kit when I get it. And I got my mill trammed in, or my vise trammed in, sorry. So, awesome. Yeah, so we got this in. What I want to do is just snug it a little bit more. That side's tight. There we go, that side's tight. And now I'll come back across one more time. Let me bring you down here so you can see it. I am super happy with that. Now that we got the vise in there, one thing that I want to do besides my mill cuts, I want to test this fly cutter and see if I can get a really smooth finish on these. Really, the fly cutter is just going to be for finishing cuts and face cuts to clean up parts. The end mills are what's going to really remove material. So this fly cutter came with a high-speed steel tool bit. It's not sharpened, so I got to sharpen it. Pretty sure the same concepts apply, that when you're cutting for the lathe, you got to have your rakes and all of that. So what I'm going to do is get this cleaned up and plan out my grinds on here, and then we'll get this mounted up into the tool holder. So anyway, that's what we want to do. It's got that 10-degree angle on them like they always do, but that's the whole idea. We need to figure out what our angles are going to be and get this sucker mounted up. Well, I didn't get that on, I didn't record that, but I need to practice grinding high-speed steel. But at any rate, I did get a little bit of a rake in there. I just need to hone it now, and then we can do some test cuts. All right, welcome back. I just wanted to catch you up to speed here. What we're doing is still learning the machine and trying different tooling. And I've got my parallels here, sharpened up my high-speed steel for the fly cutter. And what I want to do is just face off some of this material. There's a texture on this nylon. This is the first one I'm going to start with. We'll chuck this up with some parallels, and we'll just use the fly cutter and face that off and see what it does. Then we'll move on to the aluminum. I didn't show cutting the high-speed steel because I'm no expert at that. If you watch Blondie Hacks or any of the others out there, they know what they're doing when they're sharpening high-speed steel. I'm still working at it. I can get the job done to where it works, but it's not perfect, but I'll take it. I think this is going to work. What we want to do is select a parallel, and we've got this set here. So let's get this out of here. Unwrap this oily wax paper. There is our parallels. See if we can wipe those down a little bit. Got a little bit of a waxy coating on them. And we'll get this mounted up in the milling vise, and we'll just do a test cut on the, I think I might wait on the aluminum. I just want to do the this nylon, this cheap stuff I have. This I may actually work on trying to square up a piece from top to bottom, facing it and everything, just learning how to center it in and, you know, go through that entire process. Okay, first thing I need to do is take out my collet chuck, because right now I've got that in there. So what we're going to do is bring you back so you can actually see what I'm doing. There you go. You can see up here at the top, got to secure that. And we also want to make sure we don't drop anything onto the tooling. No dents or dings. I think this is going to be fine. So I want to secure that, and then we're going to break it with this tool. There we go. So we've got that broken. Now that that's loosened up, we can wrap on it with the nylon hammer, and that should break the taper. There we go. There we go. That worked pretty good. Let's get the fly cutter installed. Go. And this is just the reverse where we tighten that up. Maybe. There we go. Yeah, I may have to get a ratchet or something for this. This removing and adding these back in could be time consuming. Not that big a deal, but almost there. There we go. That's 500 RPMs. The machine's not really shaking at all. Get up to 800 and the machine wants to start shaking. You might be able to adjust the cutter a little bit, but I think that's faster than I'm ever going to need to run this anyway. Okay. Next thing we'll do, get our parallels installed. There we go. I think that's what we're going to do right there. Hold that down tight. So what we're going to do is just do a simple fly cut and just try to smooth this off. And I may flip it over and try the other end and have two parallel sides. But for now, let's see what we can do here. Forward. .400 RPMs. I don't know if that'll be enough. Let's see. We'll need to bring it down and touch off. I'll turn the DRO on too, learn that. Let's bring that down just a few thou. 10 thou? I don't think 10 thou will clean it up, but let's bring it down 10. Alright, we're going to bring this across. You can see that it's cutting it pretty good. Let's just check on that real quick. We're running about 450 thou. Wow, that's smooth. Not disappointed with that. Let's run that. Let's bring it up to There's 500 thou, and that's going to clean it up. So we'll just bring this across. Pretty happy with that. We're going to go ahead and flip that over and face off the other side and square up two parallel sides. I'll bring that all the way out to out here. Got a little bit of a hurry right there. I may go ahead and face that one more time. Good enough. Let's take that out of here and get a closer look at it if we can. There we go. Pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. Kind of hard to tell. I don't know if any reflections get in there. You can see that. Now I think what we'll do is flip it over and let's try to square this piece up. All right, like I said, we've got one side smoothed off, milled with the fly cutter. We're going to flip it over onto that. Alright, there's 20 thou. Let's see how we do. I made a little mistake there. I lowered that down while it was still running. I should have shut the machine off before I went to lift the head, but that's okay. That's why we're using this nylon to practice. Anyway, those two sides are parallel except for the little whoop-de-doo there, but that's okay. We're going to take that out of there. And again, that finish looks really good except for my little mistake. So those two sides are parallel. What I'm going to do off camera is the same thing for these other two sides, and then we're going to bring you over to the bench and we're going to do a recap. We'll do some micrometer settings. We'll just see how well I did with this first test cut piece. So what you just saw was me continuing to figure this machine out and work with the face mill. The fly cutter, not the face mill. We got this, I already shown the fly cutter. This piece is it's not perfect. This one side I was experimenting with speeds, and this side I went too fast. But the rest are very smooth and the ends are smooth. So I just thought, let me mic these and do some measurements and see how they turned out. I didn't touch the ends, but there's the block that we ended up with. There should be two parallel sides. So there we are. Let's measure. These should be pretty parallel here. So this end we ended up with 954 thou. What's the other end show? 955 thou. So over a 6-inch piece, which is what this is, 5 3/4, 5 inches, 700 thou. So over that length, we have 955 and a half of thou. 955. And this end is 956. It's very, very close. If I get it square on there, maybe. Yeah, it's within a thou. Excuse me, a thou, half a thou. Let's check this other side. The end should be fairly close. 877, 878, 877, 878 closer. What's this end? 878 and a half. So I'm very happy with that. If it's off, I think it's off a 5/10 of a thou, half a thou. For the things I'm working on, that's pretty good. I'm not going to mess with the machine and try to zero that out. I'll make the machine worse. So that's with the micrometer, or with the caliper. Let's check it with this micrometer. This doesn't have vernier scale, so it'll have to be best effort. It's almost a full inch, so I gotta bring this all the way out. So let's just check this end here. again. Don't touch it. It's 925.54. According to this, 954 thou and maybe 2/10 according to this. Let's check the other end. Should be similar. $950. So I'm gonna use this other caliper. Let me measure that again. Measures 957. That can't be right. Do that again. It's just a little more awkward to hold this one. So this says 956 thou. So according to these micrometers, it's 2 thou off. Let's see what the Fowler says. This is the 2-inch Fowler. I need to get the other Fowler. And then we'll bring this video to a close. Again, this video was just some additional accessories, getting the vise mounted, using the parallels and the fly cutter, and learning some of the ins and outs of the machine. Let's finish it by measuring up this piece. There's one end. That is 951, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to say 2/10. 954 and 2/10 on this end. Let's flip her over. Well, this one says 955 and 9/10, so almost 956. So maybe a thou and a half difference according to the micrometers. I suppose that's still possible. That is still acceptable for me right now. So that's pretty good. I might be a thou. I'm gonna call it a thou off between the sides, but yeah, that one's 954 and 5/10, so 954 and a half, and then this end. Yeah, definitely over 955 and 8/10. So again, I'm going to say it's a thou. I won't say it's 2 thou off, but not too disappointed with that. Now keep in mind the other thing that happened is by the time it got to this other end, the cutter was doing a back cut as it was spinning around. So perhaps that down force as it's coming around, the head from front to back might be just a smidge off. Maybe I can shim the vise a thou up. I'm not sure it's really worth messing with, but I think what a lot of people do is go down and then they come back, and that way it ensures a parallel cut. But at any rate, there's a squared up piece. That's pretty squared up. It's not squared up, but there's 2 parallel sides to this piece of plastic. Anyway, I'm going to close the video. Today's video was about mounting the vise, getting a set of parallels, sharpening up the high-speed steel for the fly cutter, and testing it with some nylon and test pieces. So it was fun. I'm getting there. I'm still learning, and we're just going to keep at it. But I'm going to close this video here, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.